Welcome back to another episode of ROC Boys Football, taking a look at another 2023 NFL mock draft for the New England Patriots. And before we even get into it, I just want to say thank you to you guys, especially the Patriot fans. The reason I love doing these videos so much is to talk prospect evaluations, to talk position fits, position needs, and the support you guys shown when we ripped a mock draft for the Patriots 3 weeks ago truly was absolutely awesome. So if you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. We appreciate all the support you guys are showing. Without further ado, let's get into this mock draft. And kind of what I want to note for this Patriots draft is the positions that they want to address: wide receiver, cornerback. It is a very, very loaded group in terms of depth in this class. Now, taking a look at this wide receiver position, not a lot of not the guys that you wanted, right? I think if you're picking 14 overall and you're grabbing a wide receiver, I think it's going to be Jackson Smith-Njigba or Quentin Johnson. With neither of these guys on the board, I think you're next looking at, and what we did in the first mock draft was took Brian Branch. And I love Brian Branch as a player. He's going to be a top 15 prospect on my board. But a lot of the feedback was you want to address the boundary cornerback position or you want to address tackle. And I think that makes a lot of sense. And what you could do here, and the reason I would lean offensive tackle right now is that I think after Broderick Jones and Anton Harrison, there's a pretty significant drop-off once you get to like Matthew Bergeron. Darnell Wright, who I actually like a lot, but if those guys don't make it to 46, like you're kind of holding the bag. I don't think there's a lot of starting offensive tackles after you leave the top 50 picks. So if you pass on a tackle at 14, you're really rolling the dice in a sense of getting a starting caliber tackle at pick 46 or 76, as opposed to the wide receiver and cornerback position. I think that class, especially the wide receiver position, is much more deep than it is top heavy. And so if you wait to take a wide receiver at 76 or 107 or 46, I think you still can get a really good wide receiver. I don't know if you can say the same thing for this tackle class. So if I'm picking 14 for the New England Patriots, I'm getting a guy like Broderick Jones, who I have Anton Harrison and Broderick Jones very, very close. I lean Broderick Jones because of the athletic traits. I think Broderick Jones can be a dude who's an all-pro tackle, phenomenal at Georgia. And you look at Jamari Salyer, who's playing at the Chargers. They pretty much brought Broderick Jones in to replace Jamari Salyer in the 2021 season. That's how good Broderick Jones is. He had a phenomenal 2022 season. I think he can grow a little bit in terms of pass protection, but an absolute mauler in the run game. He's a guy that Bill Belichick is absolutely going to fall in love with. So I think that's where you go at 14 if Quentin Johnson, Jackson Smith-Njigba is not on the board. Pick 46, this is kind of what I mean in terms of if you want to get a wide receiver, a guy like Josh Downs is a damn good pick at 46 overall. And you take a look at the tackles who are left, you're kind of left holding the bag. I mean, Matthew Bergeron, I think, is like not really on the caliber of Broderick Jones. And if you're not able to get a guy like Darnell Wright, who ended up going, let's see where big Darnell Wright, 32 to the Steelers, you don't really have a shot at a really good tackle. So taking a look at, if you're asking me who my favorite player on the board is, it's Felix Anudike-Uzomah, who was in a weird position at Kansas State where they ran that 3-3-5 defense, where he's kind of like head up on tackles, inside of tackles, not really playing that 5 technique, which not really allowing him to get after the passer. Felix Anudike-Uzomah, I think when he gets to the NFL, when he's put in positions where he can rush the passer, that's not to say that Felix Anudike-Uzomah was not. I mean, he's an all Big 12 defensive player of the year, 29 hurries in 2022, 2021. He had 25, 8 sacks, 13 sacks in 2021. This is a dude that was productive. He has an extremely good motor, and he's a phenomenal athlete that he's young. You can build around. I think you get him into the program, build a little bit around him. I think Felix Anudike-Uzomah, who is a top 32 guy on my board, would be a phenomenal pick at pick 46. And the Patriots have a lot of picks here. So one of the things that you're looking at is at 71, if you still see a guy that you like, maybe at that cornerback position, I think it makes a lot of sense to consider trading up. We're not necessarily going to do that, but you see how many picks the Patriots have, a trade up inside day 2 range to go get a guy that you really like, in my mind, makes a lot of sense. I want to take a look at this cornerback room because this was a position that I kind of said was a really deep position and have players that I really like kind of available day 2. Eli Ricks is one of those guys. And if you guys watch a lot of our stuff, you know how big of an Eli Ricks fan I am. Former 5-star, goes to LSU, ends up transferring to Alabama. off the field issues, but in terms of on field production, one of the best cornerbacks in this class. I think he's a very similar guy to Joey Porter Jr. It's kind of the reason why I didn't go get a Joey Porter Jr. at 14th overall, because you have a guy like Eli Ricks who's going to be here, maybe even early day 3, late day 2, that I think you can jump on. Look at the numbers here. 31.6% completion percentage when targeted, a 45.3 passer rating. He's 6'2". He has phenomenal length, very smooth hips. And again, he's an all-pro caliber cornerback from an athletic trait standpoint, just getting pushed on boards. One, because his cornerback class is really good. And then two, you have some off-the-field concerns. When you bring a guy into a Patriots locker room that is so strong, led by Bill Belichick, you kind of feel good about, if you have some question marks on the character side of things, he's going to get right in this Patriots franchise. I think Eli Ricks would make a ton of sense for the New England Patriots, who get a really good player at kind of a bargain, if you will, because he's kind of getting pushed on boards. 107, 117. This is, oh my God, Tank Dell sitting here too. I think Tank Dell makes a lot of sense. And I know you got Juju Smith-Schuster, who kind of is going to play that slot. Let's take a look at the other wide receivers on the board, because I do like Tank Dell. I think Michael Wilson makes so much sense. And Michael Wilson, very similar to Eli Ricks, just hasn't played a lot of football, right? 4 games in 20. I mean, he's played less than 20 games in his college career at Stanford. Goes to the Senior Bowl, absolutely lights it up. He's 6'2", 210 pounds. He's not the biggest. He's not the fastest, but he has that boundary wide receiver build, and he's so smooth off the line of scrimmage. He thrives in those intermediate, like working the middle of the field. And when you look at what Mac Jones wants to do, Mac Jones wants to get the ball out of his hands and put the ball accurately on wide receivers in kind of that intermediate range. Michael Wilson is going to provide that. And he's, again, one of those few bodies that is kind of a boundary wide receiver, because you look at some of these other guys, Jaden Reed, Tank Dell, more of slot guys. I think Michael Wilson presents a bigger body who can play the boundary that not a lot of wide receivers in this class can do. So Michael Wilson, another guy I really like, Bryce Ford-Wheaton, A.T. Perry, some of those guys that are a little bit different than most of these wide receivers in the class that I think could really benefit a team, maybe late day 2, early day 3. Pick 117. I don't think it's crazy to double up on a cornerback if Trey Hodges-Tomlinson is still on the board here. Some other positions that you might want to be addressing. So we get our wide receiver, cornerback, edge. Maybe you're looking at a linebacker here, but I feel like we miss kind of our sweet spot. And this off-ball linebacker class is not good. Dorian Williams would make a lot of sense here. I actually really like Dorian Williams in terms of translating to the NFL. He's one of those linebackers that is really good in space. He's really good in coverage. And when you're looking at linebackers transitioning to the next level, you want some guys who can play in space. I think Dorian Williams is a guy that can do that. So we'll go up and draft Dorian Williams at 117 and pick 135, 183 coming up. This is when you get more into just find your guys, find really good players. And there's no better player than Moro Ojomo. We're going to smack. Moro Ojomo is a very interesting prospect. He's going to be a top 75 guy on my board, right? You see 6'3", 281 playing the interior of that defensive line. He wins. He's a very good pass rusher from the inside. You see the pass rush win rate, 17.8%, which is absolutely silly for an interior defensive lineman. Did play a little bit of 5-tech outside the tackle, but mostly was playing that 3-tech position. The most impressive thing about Moro Ojomo's film is he holds up in the run game extremely well. For being a 285-pound guy, I mean, takes on double teams, gets behind the line of scrimmage. But what's rare about him and why you're drafting him so high is it's really rare to see the burst and bend from interior defensive linemen who can impact the passer. Moro Ojomo is one of those guys. I think Moro Ojomo would make a lot of sense at 135. And again, one of the best players available on the board, a top 75 guy on my big board. 183, 186 coming up. And maybe I wouldn't mind getting another body in this wide receiver position, wide receiver room. Zach Kuntz would make a lot of sense. Zach Kuntz is a really interesting prospect. 6'8", like really, really good playing above the rim. He got injured last year, wasn't really able to play, but 2021 was super impressive. Not many more productive tight ends than a guy like Zach Kuntz. Bryce Ford-Wheaton, when I say I want to get another wide receiver in this room, Bryce Ford-Wheaton's a guy. And 4.38, jumps 40-inch vertical. And you take a look at 6'3", 225. Like he's a silly good athlete that he's another one of those guys that if you've been watching Like, he's a guy that I'm banging the table for. I think he's going to be a day 2 pick. So if Bryce Ford Wheaton's here at 183, like, go bet on a guy who's 6'3", 225 pounds, runs a 4.38. That's faster than Jalen Hyatt for comparison. I mean, this dude absolutely cooks. And when you watch his film, you don't necessarily see him. You don't necessarily see him as a speedster. You see him more as a physical wide receiver who uses his body at the catch point. When he ran that 4.38, jumped 40-inch vertically, truly special athlete. Taking a look here, what's this running back? I mean, I love, you bring in, that's right. James Robinson's coming in. You're probably not going running back here. Going and trying to find another guy that I'm a fan of here. We didn't go get Zach Kuntz. I think Will Mallory would be a nice addition. I could certainly see Bill Belichick falling in lead. Dylan Horton's a really interesting prospect that I'm quite frankly not sure why everyone's so low on. 35 pressures, a very high pass rush win rate at 15%. Not elite, but it's there. But what you love in Dylan Horton is that this dude just plays the game with his hair on fire, and that's why he has so many of these pressures. He's not necessarily a first-round pick because the physical traits aren't necessarily there. He's not going to be the most explosive. He's not going to be the bendiest or twitchiest, but he plays the game extremely hard. He's a very solid guy that might not start for you, but he's going to be a good rotational dude that, again, sitting at almost 280 pounds, can play that 3-tech if you need, can play inside on pass rush downs, but also can play the edge spot. He's a very good athlete. Bill Belichick likes versatility. I think Dylan Horton offers a little bit of that. Pick 191. Looking at some of the, I think we're kind of over like best player drafting for like, I don't know what you call it, like position needs, because you're probably not finding many starters at this range. You're more just drafted for some of the best players that you see available. The guy that's standing out to me is Ricky Stromberg. He's another guy that I'm taking in a lot of these drafts that very similar to Dylan Horton, not necessarily the most athletic dude, probably not going to be an all-pro center, but 3-year starter at Arkansas. Arkansas does a phenomenal job developing offensive linemen. I think that'd make a lot of sense for a lot of different teams who, if you want a center who's going to be a solid center for you, and I know you have Mark Andrews right now, go get a guy like Ricky Stromberg to be a very good depth piece and potential starter in the future. Pick 209. Ronnie Bell's another guy. I could see Bill Belichick really falling in love with a guy like Ronnie Bell. I could see him falling in love with a guy like Keaton Thompson too, as a former quarterback prospect. I think D Winters. I really like D Winters. And we might take D Winters. DJ Dale is very good. Servosi Dennis. Justin Short is another wide receiver, kind of similar to Bryce Ford Wheaton. That not necessarily the most productive guy, but really some really impressive traits. I think we're going to go get D Winters, who was you look at why TCU's defense was so good. D Winters was a large part of that. Well, let's check this edge position real quick before we. Well, let's see. McLennan Curtis not on the board. There's a few edge guys that I like that are kind of sleepers that could be some productive players. Iko Leota would be one of them. Really good pass rusher, was banged up this year, but I really like Iko Leota's game. And DJ Johnson, he's another guy that kind of can play a lot of different roles. Bigger, heavier-handed edge guy. We'll go with DJ Johnson. You can bet on some traits a little bit there. One more pick at 257. Let's go find a guy that we absolutely love here. Maybe no, probably not that. Mohamed Diabate is a very good football player. I need tight ends. To add to this, or like Leonard Tate. Braden Willis, if there's like sleeper of the year for me in terms of getting a tight end that not necessarily going to be an inline blocker, but can really be a difference maker as an athlete in space, it could be Braden Willis. And I'm very interested to see where he goes and then how teams use him. Taking a look at our results here. Broderick Jones, I would prefer a guy like Paris Johnson Jr. at 14 overall, but Broderick Jones is my offensive tackle number 2. I think the sky is the limit for this dude, and quite frankly, not even sure if he scratched the surface of how good he can be, and he was an All-American last year. Felix Anudike-Uzomah, A-plus pick, top 32 guy on my board, position of need at 46 makes a lot of sense, and Eli Ricks is another guy that two of my personal favorites. Eli Ricks will certainly be a top 50 dude. I've taken him as high as 18 for the Detroit Lions, which I know is whack, but I'm really high on Eli Ricks. Michael Wilson's a really solid pick. Michael Wilson, Bryce Ford Wheaton, A.T. Perry are 3 guys that I think the Patriots really could be looking at as a wide receiver one potential on the boundary who kind of balances out a guy like Juju Smith-Schuster. Dorian Williams, not necessarily a position of need, but probably was the best player on the board there. And when you're picking round 4, you're probably going best available. Moro Jomo, solid B. I think that should be an A. Dylan Horton, Ricky Stromberg, DJ Johnson, a lot of big name schools here. A lot of players who played a high level at the Power 5 level. Pretty solid draft for the New England Patriots. Again, appreciate you guys for checking us out. Let me know in the comment section how you guys think we did. We appreciate all the support you guys have shown, and we'll talk to y'all later.